Hello, this is George Edmondson with MotionVFX.com. Today we're talking about mPresentation. Once you've installed mPresentation via mInstaller, it can be located in your transitions, as well as your titles. If you skim over any of these, you will get a real-time preview in your canvas as how they're going to look. So you can see we have some add-ons here, we have some backgrounds, we have a ton of these awesome infographics, placeholders, we have tiles horizontal, and we have tiles vertical. So those are going to be, if you are in a vertical timeline, those are the ones you'll be using. And then we have a ton of different typography. So why don't we build a composition? We're going to build the same thing that you just saw in the intro there. So to apply, simply click and drag into your timeline. Here we're going to use background number 2. Let's drag this back just a bit so that we can time it out properly. And then you can see that it is just going to animate in really nicely. We've got some subtle animation going on in the background with some shadows. And then I'm also going to add a title here. So why don't we go over and we can add title number 9. So I'm going to click and drag this in. And then why don't I retime that just a bit as well. And you can see that they're going to animate in together beautifully. Awesome. So in our background title over in our published parameters, you can see we have some published parameters, animations in and out, and then we have our circle's radius that you can adjust, along with the circle center and all of the colors. And then we have turbulence, and that is going to affect that kind of shadow animation going on. And then over in our title, as always, we have some on-screen controls for position, scale, and rotation. Now, you'll notice that these on-screen controls are quite familiar, but also have a little bit of a new look to those. That is because MotionVFX has now introduced this new on-screen control that is built from scratch, and you'll be seeing a lot more of this in future plugins. Then, of course, over in our inspector, we have all of the additional published parameters where we can change our texts and fonts and colors along with our line and such. So let's just see that one more time. They animate in beautifully together, and then they're going to animate out right into our next shot. So on our next shot, I'm going to be using several things. So the first thing I would like to use is our tile gradient. And you can see we have tile blur and tile gradient H, that stands for horizontal. So we are in a horizontal timeline. So I'm just going to click this and drag it in on top. I'd like to stagger these just a bit over my background. And then I'm going to make sure that that is centered up with my clip here. And so let's see how that looks. You can see that it is just coming in and it's very subtle. So with this composition, you can see in tile gradient H, we have some awesome on-screen controls here. And you can see that we have this one here in the center, and that is going to snap to a sort of grid. It's sort of an invisible grid there. And then we also have our on-screen control here, and that is affecting your gradient. And then we have this on-screen control, and that is affecting your other gradient there. Over in our inspector, we have the animation in type. We have position top, but you can see that we can do position bottom or scale, whatever type of animation you want. We also have rectangle type, and you see that we have 1/8 square, then we have a quarter vertical, we have quarter horizontal, half square, etc. So that's really, really nice. And then if you wanted to do a custom, you are going to have an on-screen control here that is just going to affect the square here. So again, you can see that we have introduced some brand new on-screen controls with this plugin that you're going to start seeing a lot more of in future plugins. So with this is looking really good. I like this look here that we are getting. So the next thing I would like to do is add in a title. So why don't we go to title number 2, and I'm just going to click and drag this in on top. And let me just kind of bring this back so that it matches. We will use our on-screen controls here to just very quickly bring these over. So why don't I bring this over here, something like this, really, really nice. And then over in our inspector, we can change any of these texts and colors and fonts. Why don't I change this to number 1, just so you can see that there. Then the last thing I would like to do is bring in my circle button, and these are going to be up here in my infographics. You can see it right here, circle button. So we're just going to bring that in. Let's go ahead and drop that on, and again we can position that, and let's use our button here, and we're just going to bring this over, maybe something like this, using our on-screen controls. Really nice. And as always, all of our additional published parameters over in the inspector. I think now would be a good time to introduce our transitions. So again, over in our transitions, if you scrub over, you can get a real-time preview as to how these are going to look. I really love cube horizontal. I love cube split. We have cube vertical. So why don't we just click and drag this in between our 2 clips. And then you can see that we are going to animate out with all of our circle button and such, and then we've got that cube that is just going to animate directly into that next clip. Really nice. With this highlighted, very simple published parameters with just a few colors and color locations, and you're on your way. All right, so let's go back over to our titles here. In this one, I think I want to use the tile outline again. These are a lot of fun, so why don't we use the tile outline horizontal? And again, we have our on-screen control that is just going to be snapping to our grid. For this one, again, I think that I'm just going to bring this over. I'm going to change my rectangle type. Why don't we go to, let's do half square here so you can see how that looks. So we have our tile outline there, and then I would like to use a diagram. So why don't we go back up to our infographics, and yes, let's use our percentage diagram. I'm going to bring this in on top, and I'm going to just bring this over to match. And then I want you to notice how this is fitting perfectly inside of our tile outline horizontal. That is because these are all working together cohesively with these grids, so you can really quickly move these and use these, and they're going to match up perfectly. Almost think of this plugin as a hybrid plugin and modular template. So as always, on-screen controls for position, scale, rotation, and then you have this additional on-screen control, which is just so cool. You can see that we are animating our bubbles there along with our percentage rate with that on-screen control, and it moves really, really quickly. It's very snappy, really nice. So check this out, how this just all works together. We're coming in, and then boom, it animates and it goes right back out. Beautiful. All right, so I think I want to introduce another background here. So why don't we come back up to our backgrounds? We can use background number 5. We're going to drag this in, and I'm actually going to drag this in beneath my 2 titles there, just so that they can animate out, and my background immediately animates in right here. I believe I want to bring this down just a bit. You can see a single on-screen control here, and that is going to be our shape with our gradient and our colors and stuff like that. So you can kind of move that around and figure out where you want that to be. So above this background, I'd like to add some more tiles again. And in this one, I'm actually going to use the tile blur. So let's use our tile blur H, that stands for horizontal, because we are in a horizontal timeline. And I'm just going to bring this back just a bit, and then you can see how that comes in, and it's very subtle, but it's absolutely there, and we can kind of snap this to whatever grid we want. Over here, I'm going to do my rectangle type. All right, so I like this, but I think that I'd like a few more of these, so I'm going to actually go to my tile blur H, option click and drag up. I'm going to grab another one. I'm going to bring it over. So to build this composition, I'm going to do a quarter vertical, and then I'm also going to do 2/8 squares over there on the right side so that we can build a really awesome composition. All right, so why don't we do that? Let's start with our meter. I'm going to bring this in on top, And then we can again adjust to fit, use our meter with our on-screen controls, and we can very, very quickly bring this over here and we can set this up. There we go. And then you can see we've got another on-screen control here, and that is going to be our bar filling in there. So really nice, just by clicking and dragging around, and that is going to adjust that section. And of course over here we can change this percentage if we would like. Really cool. Now why don't we come down to our typography and let's find something that looks nice. I think I like this tile text. Why don't we try tile text number 6? We can drag this in. Again, bring this down. Use our on-screen controls here, and let's just grab use one of our tiles there. There we go. And of course you can change any of those parameters if you would like. We've also got this cool vertical title here, so I think I want to drag my vertical title in, and we can bring this down as we said earlier. Just use our on-screen controls, and then we could bring this here into our center tile there. And then why don't we do one more to fill in this big area here. We could do why don't we do highlight number 1. We'll bring that in. Here we go. Bring this down. And then boom, there we go. We can take that and move that into the center if we like, or just leave it at default, because again, these are all working really well together. So you can see that coming in. We've got that awesome circle going around game. Over in our inspector, we could change any of those. We could turn the highlight on and off, etc. I think we could also do a transition out of all of this into our next shot here. I know that it does do sort of a blur transition already by default. I think I'm going to turn my animation out. I'm going to turn that off. And then why don't we grab one of our transitions here? You know, I'm a fan of this cube, so I'm just going to grab the cube split and I'm just going to bring that in. I'm going to delete it because it adds it to that very beginning. Drag this down, and then you can see how we've got all of the text, and then it just transitions right in out of that background. Sweet. All right, let's go back over to our titles here and let's take a look. On this one, I think this tiles preset will be really nice. So we're just going to drag this in right on top, and we can go ahead and retime to fit. And then you can see really quickly that those tiles just come in, and that movement looks really, really good with this particular video because they hold a similar movement in the animation type. Again, on-screen controls as needed. You can change the number of tiles if you want. You can change what type of tile. It really does hold a lot just in this simple title here. And why don't we close this out with another background? So since we're using background number 2, we'll just use background number 2 again. And we can maybe do one more transition out of this into our background. I like this blink, so we'll grab that. And then here we go. We're just going to do a quick blink, and then boom, we're open up into our background there. We haven't used any add-ons yet, so really quickly, since we are coming out of that blink, we could use add-on number 1 and maybe bring that in on top. And it is just going to blink, and then boom, there's another one. Really cute little blink right on top there. We can use our on-screen control to position this where we would like. So why don't I just put it kind of over here a little bit out of the way, because I want to do a title there to the left. So on the final little bit, why don't we use our title number 6? That's really cool, and that is left aligned. There we go. And boom, there we go. It's really nice. It works so well. As always, we've got our on-screen controls where we can just kind of center that up a little bit if you want to, however it looks good for you. And again, there are so many things packed into this plugin. We can't go over all of them, but we've got placeholders with a lot of different drop zone options. We've got our world map. I mean, so much. We've got step timelines. We absolutely can't wait to see what you are able to do with mPresentation, which is now available on MotionVFX.com. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.